A maid abruptly appears at the young man's mansion and asks to be hired. For free. The show starts off with Yuri spying on the maid he recently hired. Yuri inherited the mansion after the death of his parents in a car accident, and due to having not much of an inheritance, he dismissed all the servants. Since there is nobody else beside him in the mansion, he has to do all sorts of work. This means cooking for himself, doing laundry, and cleaning the house. However, when he tries cooking, he finds himself eating a burning coal of toast. At least that's how he feels, and messes up the laundry. He isn't good at cleaning the mansion as well, as he accidentally ruins some important documents. Yuri realizes just how tough it is to keep everything going, but he still resolves to get better and take care of himself properly. Later, as he's about to head to his room, he finds a stranger entering his house and immediately recognizes her as a maid. However, he hadn't put any ads for recruitment or told anyone that he needed a maid, so he felt highly suspicious of her. Yuri is astonished when Lilith, the maid, finds out that he doesn't have any servants without even looking around. However, even if he wants to hire her, he has no money to spare for her salary. Hearing this, Lilith reveals that she doesn't mind having any salary as long as it means having to sleep and eat for free. Her sparkling purple eyes bewitch Yuri, and he accepts her condition. Ever since this, Yuri prizes on everything she does and feels that she is either a witch or a sorcerer. One time, while she is reading a book on housekeeping, Yuri mistook it as a book of sorcery and is horrified that the other is chanting spells to imprison him under her sight. Later, he confronts her about this, and she jokingly accepts being a sorcerer. However, she didn't realize that the other was so serious about it and was forced to retreat outside. Yuri feels that he missed his best chance to get everything out of her and decides to confront her once more. As he approaches her, he immediately asks about her plans, to which she responds that her plan for today is cooking delicious meals, intentionally changing the subject. Yuri is distracted for a second but instantly regains his composure and asks about her spells. Ever since she came here, Yuri can't spend a second without having to think about her, something that races in his heart. Lilith is flustered hearing this and feels it's best to reply no further. Later at night, he has a nightmare, and as he wakes up, he finds someone in the kitchen. Yuri initially thinks it must be a burglar or someone, as it is so late, but still feels the need to check it. He is surprised to find Lilith cooking something and mistakenly senses this as a potion. Scared, he immediately retreats to his bed. In the morning, Lilith serves him a delicious breakfast, and after tasting it, he promptly accuses her of witchcraft and reveals that she was making a potion last night to imprison him. Lilith teases him by agreeing to this and reveals having to use a love potion in her cooking. However, what she doesn't realize is Yuri taking everything with a straight face, and he forbids her from making love potion again, when in reality she was just practicing cooking. Yuri resolves to confront her once again, as he doesn't know a thing about her, while she is aware of everything he likes and dislikes. As he approaches her, the other calls him out by his name, taking him aback. This is too much damage to him, and she gets enough time to get away from being questioned for hours. Later, Yuri feels that he at least got to know something about her, and after checking out all the documents, he finally learns her name. At the dinner table, he asks her to call him by his name, and in return he uses hers. Much to her surprise, Lilith is grateful that her master bothered to get to know her name. Later that night, Lilith is shown to be holding a picture of Yuri, as she recalls receiving a letter immediately after his parents' death and traveling to the mansion quickly. Yuri wakes up to find Lilith beside her bed, giving him new clothes. As he looks toward the drawer, he finds more new clothes and feels even more suspicious. After his breakfast, a package arrives, and Yuri realizes that Lilith has bought him a gaming console. He feels that the other is trying to win him over and tame him more so when Lilith jokingly admits it, but he is determined to not be swayed by her ways of handling things, and tells her that she is cute enough already and shouldn't buy gifts for him to win him over, further embarrassing her. Later, while he is studying, she continuously disturbs him, unintentionally, by bringing him tea and pastries. After he gets irritated, he tells her to stand by his side so she won't get tired by going inside and out simultaneously, while he won't get lonely in his room all by himself. Afterward, he finds her acting weird, and after following her, Yuri realizes that she was just trying to get close to a cat. He has his fears of cats and doesn't want to get near one. However, when he notices Lilith acting so friendly towards it, he musters up some courage to approach them and opts to get over his fear. Lilith wants to assist him in his quest, but he feels that a master shouldn't need help in something like this. After she goes away, he has a hard time dealing with the cat initially, but after a while the two start to get along well by playing with each other. Lilith brings some food over to the cat, and while the cat is eating it, another stray cat appears to have the loot for itself. Yuri notices the cat is protecting him from the other and instantly decides to protect it in return. The bond between the two is forged now, and they are inseparable friends. Lilith checks up on the two to make sure everything is going well, and after seeing the cat being petted by the young master, she can't help but desire she was in the cat's place. Yuri notices this and abruptly pets her, dazzled by her elegant soft hair. As she is leaving, she accidentally drops his photo and new suspicions arise in his head, particularly one about his picture being used in some sort of ritual to be enchanted by her. Seeing his dedication to flowers and studying Lilith is fascinated by it and makes an even more delicious meal. Later, Yuri wants to cook by himself for once and asks Lilith for his assistance. She happily helps in cooking it, and at the dinner table, the two sit together to eat it. Yuri doesn't feel like it's as delicious as her meals and thinks something is missing. The other jokes about her love not being there, and he instantly believes her. Yuri is now assured that her love for him makes the meal tastier, as she is a witch. He astonishingly proposes to her in a bizarre way as he wants her to continue cooking for him for the rest of his life, while the other is flustered and about to pass out from this sudden statement. Later, when he is about to sleep, Yuri is determined to find out what Lilith is up to as she always sleeps after him and wakes up before him. Unfortunately for him, his bed gets the better of him and he goes on a mystical journey. Lilith promptly enters his bedroom at midnight, admitting to sleeping late just so she could have a sight of the sleepy face. After spending too long in his mansion, it's time for Yuri to return to school. Lilith gets him ready, and as he's about to leave, she begins noticing the loopholes and correcting every tiny detail. Yuri isn't really fond of this as none of his previous servants did that sort of thing and feels that this should be exclusive to married couples. His mother used to care for his father the exact same way. Yuri tells her that she should worry about him after their marriage, and maybe then he will wear everything she so desires, flustering the other. As he reaches the school, other female students spot him and are worried about him as his parents had recently passed away. Tsukasa, the young, timid student, tries to approach him multiple times at school, but each time she is disrupted from initiating the conversation. She recalls meeting him and his parents at a party, and even though she was such a quiet, timid girl, Yuri was the first person to have genuinely been interested in talking to her. Meanwhile, Lilith is bored at home and wants to see her young master. Since she is done with everything, she decides to pick him up and awaits him at his school gate. Every student is entranced by her beauty, especially her sparkling eyes like a gem. Tsukasa is about to approach Yuri to offer him some support, but is unlucky when the other spots his maid and starts talking to her. Tsukasa is confused as she had heard about the dismissal of all the servants and stalks the two. Though, as expected, she is suspicious of Lilith too, as she believes such a beauty could not possibly be a normal maid. On the other hand, Lilith apologizes to her master for coming without notice, and the other tells her that he doesn't want anyone to lay eyes on her captivating beauty as he only wants her for himself. Astonishing the stalking girl, Tsukasa's servant is an acquaintance of Lilith, and after the two greet each other, Suaka wants her servant to wear the same uniform, though the other would prefer quitting the job than wearing something as charming as the costume. Afterward, Lilith goes out shopping, and when Yuri gets back, he can't find her. To kill some time before she gets back, he starts reading comics. On the other hand, Lilith is having a hard time getting the preferred ingredient, and as persistent as she is, she heads to the next town to get her hands on it. All the while, Yuri is worried about her and even feels that his maid left him. Fortunately, she finds the certain fish in another town, and Fujisaki, Tsukasa's servant, assists her in getting back. Their conversation implies that Lilith was a maid here once before. After she enters the mansion, she notices how much worry she caused her young master, and to make it worse, she forgot her phone at the mansion so she couldn't even contact him. The other, worriedly sick, tells her that she put a curse on him that makes the time unbearable without her for him. She realizes his feelings for her and assures him that she will always be the lap for his stressful head. After a few days, things go back to usual as Yuri starts being suspicious of Lilith once again. She tries her best to appear trustworthy, but each time it takes a tide and somehow makes things worse. However, Lilith is determined to become a better maid, someone who is reliable and trustworthy, so she starts observing how she would appear more honest, so he could grow without having to stress over every little detail. Regardless, it still doesn't change anything, and she suggests that the two should play together for a change. Yuri is overly suspicious initially, but quickly realizes that the other is being honest, and the two agree to play chess. As they begin, Yuri recalls playing chess with his father, while his mother would make pudding, even though his mother was quite strict when it came to disturbing his father. The following day, as Yuri enters the mansion, Lilith notices that he is feeling down. She prepares a pudding to cheer him up, but gets no reaction out of him when she notices he isn't being suspicious like usual. Normally, it would be a good thing to have a clear understanding between a maid and her master, but Lilith worries there might be more to this. She starts sneaking on him, and Yuri finally reveals that an open house day is happening at the school and he has no one to turn to but her. She immediately accepts his request and agrees to attend it, much to his amazement. He didn't anticipate her to accept so quickly and was worrying about how he could make her attend the event. Though he doesn't want her to wear the same dress as it will make her stand out and more people would be captivated by her beauty. The following day, even though Lilith promised she would come, Yuri still feels he should be ready for no one to attend the event. However, the moment she enters their class wearing a male butler's uniform, which she borrowed from Fujisaki, his face brightens as if spring has come unnoticed. On their way back, Yuri thanks her for coming over, and the other assures her that she would be there wherever his scent flows. Lilith picks her master up as usual from school, and Shikasa feels that her servant, Fujisaki, should act more feminine with her like Yuri's maid. After getting back from school, Yuri is running around the mansion, weirding Lilith out. When she inquires about it, he informs her about the sports day and she starts cheering him up. He feels enthusiastic and tells her that she should come to support him there, as it will make them feel closer. Lilith agrees, and immediately after, she starts helping him with practice. Due to Lilith's support, Yuri realizes he has improved a lot and is confident that he can do better, even though he failed at practice due to another stray cat continuously annoying him. Yuri is tired at night, and his maid decides to massage him so he wouldn't feel uncomfortable during the various competitions on the sports day. The following morning, before heading to school, he instructs her to come to check on him later and advises that she should dress comfortably. As the competition is about to begin, Lilith cheers for him, and Shikasa is amazed at how incredibly closer they are. However, things take a turn when Lilith promises him a reward after the race, and her mind begins imagining lewd things. Nonetheless, even she is ablaze to help him win the race, now that a reward is on the line, and encourages him that they should give it all they got. Due to the immense support from their families and servants, Yuri's team wins the first competition, and Tsukasa is curious about the reward her friend is about to receive. However, she is gutted to find out that he only wishes to see her smile, completely ruining all the fanfics she had in her tiny head. The four, alongside Fujisaki, have lunch together before the last race, which only includes the servants and parents of the students. Even though Lilith would have won easily without Yuri's support, she is still grateful that the others cheered her up, resulting in her first spot. After the competitions, other boys approach the two and complain that using his maid was a cheat code, to which Yuri responds that she is a family, mantling Lilith's face in red. After they go away, she asks about this, and Yuri informs her that no maid would linger around someone all the time, and whenever he is close to her, his chest becomes like a solid stone, his blood rushing down like a waterfall. She immediately recognizes that he has feelings for her, but doesn't correct him. A cloudy day and Lilith is out shopping. Unfortunately, it starts raining and she's soaking wet upon getting back. As Yuri notices this, he immediately brings her a towel and instructs her to take a bath. Taking advantage of the matter, Lilith teases him by inviting him together, but the other forbids her from ever doing so until their marriage, embarrassing her. After she gets back to work, she prepares tea for Yuri, but surprisingly, she mistakenly puts salt in there instead of sugar, causing Yuri a worry as he feels this isn't normal. He starts monitoring her, and after she takes a fall, he takes her to bed so she could lay down and rest. Yuri is shocked to discover she has such a high fever and wants to contact a doctor, but the other insists on getting back to work as she feels this is her only duty, and without being useful, someone else would take her place. Yuri hugs her before telling her how grateful he is for having such a precious family as her. The following day, she is doing well enough, so she is back to doing her usual work. However, she is surprised to notice Yuri is helping her out. She tries preventing him from doing so, but the other wants to be useful until she is completely feeling well at least. Later, Yuri is invited to a Halloween party by Tsukasa, and she is asked him to bring over his maid as well. The two decide on their costumes as Yuri chooses to be a sage, while Lilith is assigned to dress like a witch. As they knock on her day, Tsukasa is dazzled to find them in such pretty costumes and even creates a backstory for the sage and the dragon, though not before being lectured by Fujisaki to stop her wild imagination. Yuri is incredibly grateful for the invite and reveals that this is the first time he went to a classmate's party, which makes it even more special. Tsukasa is impressed by Lilith's handcrafting after Yuri confesses that she is the one who created their costumes. Since the three almost make up an adventurous party, they realize that they have one person missing, the princess. Tsukasa instructs her maids to dress up Fujisaki forcefully, making her a spectacle of brilliance. Even though she doesn't like revealing much of her feminine side, Tsukasa wants her to be more honest with herself, and sneakily wants her photos to tease her later. Even though she forbids them from taking any pictures, Tsukasa still manages to find a way and shows them to Yuri at school. Yuri is excited to get back home and be welcomed by his precious maid, something he has come to love recently. As he enters the mansion expecting a warm welcome, he is astonished to find the other is acting suspiciously by hiding a note behind her back. Yuri demands an explanation, but Lilith doesn't reveal anything and assures him that he will find out later. During the dinner, she unusually thanks him for all the time before admitting that she used to work somewhere before, which she left without notice, and now they are demanding her back. Hearing this, Yuri is settled to keep her as she is the only one who ever captivated him by her charm and is ready to fight for her. Lilith is content at hearing this and throws away the letter, believing this mansion to be the rightful place for her. After their class is over, Yuri is bored, so he starts talking to Tsukasa about his maid. Yuri feels that he has some confusion syndrome, and everything he feels around Lilith is confusing, and there's nothing that makes him feel better except for her smile. Tsukasa immediately realizes that he is in love with her, but the other is too busy hurling all the complaints at her that he forgets to hear her advice. Since he is running rampant about it, Tsukasa starts to think that he is just bragging about his extraordinary relationship with his maid, but promptly concludes that the young Yuri is just confused about his feelings, as this is the first time love blossomed in his life. She assures him that there is nothing wrong with him, and all he is feeling is love for a person he wishes happiness. On his way, he thinks about it for a long time, and after arriving at the mansion, he starts to ignore Lilith, even when she uses lewd jokes to get a reaction out of him, furtherly making her worry. After being forced to talk to her, Yuri almost reveals his feelings by asking her about love, but decides that the time can come later for this discussion. After explaining everything to Tsukasa once more, she invites him over to her house to explain what love is. As they round up to eat, Tsukasa is impressed with Lilith's cooking skills and asks why he didn't bring her over together. Despite being her good friend, Yuri feels that she would steal his maid, as their house has more maids, a better environment, and is richer, making him a subject of jealousy. Tsukasa is surprised at his judgment and assures him that Lilith, from what she has seen, wouldn't leave him for anything for even a second. To properly explain love, Tsukasa recommends her light novel collection, but Fujisaki prevents her from deluding the innocent Yuri's mind with wild imaginations. The following day, their teacher assigns them to draw an art piece of whatever they like the most, and Yuri decides to draw his lovely maid. Lilith is embarrassed at the thought of posing being drawn, but after noticing how passionate Yuri is, she agrees to it. The two try out various poses and eventually settle for one. However, Yuri feels like going until late at night and draws her over and over until he gets the best result. Later at night, Yuri is having a hard time sleeping after multiple failed attempts. Lilith is forced to sleep together with him, singing him a lullaby that brings forth a lingering memory unable to be replicated. The following day, he wins the contest and the whole class congratulates him. Yuri is having a dream about a girl similar to his maid, though he can't seem to recognize her but feels a strange connection with her. As he wakes up, he finds Lilith in his room, busy with chores, and he instructs her to take off a day. The other doesn't like this, as she feels she should be there for him every time, but Yuri assures her that it is good for her to spend time at her own pace once in a while. Later, while he is studying, Lilith enters his room to inform him about going outside. Yuri is suspicious that she is meeting with someone, as she has worn new clothes but fails to get anything out of her. After she is done buying desserts for her master, she heads to meet up with Fujisaki, who is her friend from the academy days. The other reveals how unapproachable she was in her earlier days, but still had a calm aura around her. On the other hand, Lilith remembers her having beef with almost everyone on a daily basis. Fujisaki advises her to open her heart to Yuri, as it is a burden keeping these feelings locked up, and believes this is the only way Yuri will confess his feelings. However, their conversation is interrupted when Tsukasa messages her servant to return. Though she is curious about Lilith and wants to know whether they have a private relationship, she should reduce consuming shoujo novels. After the two leave, Yuri makes himself visible and reveals that he couldn't help but follow her, as he felt she was on a date with someone. Surprisingly, he hears the same lullaby from a complete stranger as the other tries sleeping her child. Upon his return home, he immediately confronts her and asks about the secret she's keeping away from him. Lilith tries to change the subject, but Yuri tells her that he hasn't forgotten how she visited their mansion in the past, though it was just for a little while, and that mayhaps be the reason why he forgot in the first place. He also remembers her singing him a lullaby whenever his mother was away. Hearing this, Lilith assures him that the reason she didn't tell him anything was because she wanted him to remember everything on his own. But now she feels bad about it and is ready to cry when Yuri promises her that he will slowly but surely remember everything. The two slowly bump their heads before returning to their work. The following day, Tsukasa notices that Yuri is in a good mood and asks whether he made a move or two on his maid. Much to her surprise, the other tells him that they even slept together, and Tsukasa realizes that Yuri is already an adult in the world of children. Though everything is made clear when she concludes he is too straightforward and doesn't even know he's in love with her, even though she explained to him multiple times. After she describes what love is perfectly, he finally comprehends his love for Lilith. Yuri rushes to her side and confesses the moment he lays eyes on her, as he is busy revealing his true feelings for her. A strange voice appears from behind, commanding her to return to her work. Her former colleague at the academy is here to take her back, as she believes that the rightful place for Lilith is beside her. Lilith explains their guest, Natsume, and she used to work for the same employer once, but she felt bored and now she is caring for the young master. Seeing the two get along well together annoys Natsume, as she doesn't want Lilith to talk to anyone except her. Furthermore, Yuri's lack of wealth irritates her, as she thinks that Lilith should work for someone who at least has their own pocket money. To test whether Yuri is suitable to be her master, she decides to hold a test and asks him about the famous theory of relativity. Yuri ethically tells her that he isn't aware of it yet, but plans on studying more. But when he asks her about it, it is implied that she can't even comprehend the name properly. Seeing them both lovey-dovey infuriates her, and in the process, she accidentally breaks a lamp. Much to her amazement, Yuri is worried more about her, making her suspicious of his manipulative behavior, though Lilith assures her that he is just as kind-hearted. Seeing as she is being way too persistent than usual, Lilith recalls her not leaving her side and asks the reason. The other doesn't have any answer to this, and Yuri tells her that it is because she loves her. Natsume initially denies this, but after Yuri also made her aware of his feelings toward Lilith, she accepts his remarks. However, she has no control over these feelings and would take time to move on. After Yuri heads over to his school the following day, Natsume takes all the time to observe the harsh conditions Lilith has to face in the mansion. Much to her surprise, she is doing the chores happily, as if she's doing them for a grand purpose. Once Yuri returns, he immediately reveals his feelings once more and tells her that she was all on his mind, causing her to blush like a crimson bloom. Natsume notices this and is assured that she is in love with him. Later, Yuri isn't sure whether Natsume really is a maid, as she doesn't seem to possess any capabilities. However, she mistakes this as being looked down upon and decides to help Lilith, only making things worse. After she messes herself up, Yuri commands both of them to have a bath to clean themselves, and Lilith admits to being weirded out by her master's recent confessions. She isn't sure what she feels, but Natsume points out that the reason she loves doing the chores for him is because her heart longs for his happiness. The thought of being in love is enough to burn her face out in red. Tsukasa is curious to know how much his relationship has progressed since yesterday. Yuri doesn't feel like sharing, but since she is encouraged, he informs her about the third person in their mansion. Just as crazy as she is, Tsukasa begins to envision the two having a child already. Though he does make everything clear, and the other is interested to know more about Natsume. On the other hand, since Lilith is busy, Natsume heads out to pick Yuri up from school. Her eyes promptly lay upon Tsukasa, and she starts to think she may be a rival for Lilith in the future, as the two get along very well. However, before she could approach them, she spots her rather infamous senior, Fujizaki, and quickly hides. On their way back, Yuri tells her that it was needless for her to pick him up, but after she helps him repelling the bullies, he thanks her. For gratitude, he isn't going away freely, and she tasks him with helping her by throwing a surprise party for Lilith this Christmas. After getting back, Lilith finds them arguing in their room and is surprised at how well they get along with each other, though she doesn't intrude as they are picking up a gift for her. The two make a secret plan and keep it hidden from Lilith. Yuri goes even as far as telling her that he will be together with Tsukasa, while she can spend time with Natsume, making her rethink whether his love is even real. On Christmas Eve, Natsume invites her out, and after spending the night out, she gifts Lilith a pen so she could write letters to her. As they get back, Natsume is amazed that she was tricked and the entire party was for her. Yuri abruptly reveals that he couldn't keep it a secret from Lilith, who was visibly upset back then and decided to surprise her instead. Regardless, Natsume feels happy as they considered her precious enough to surprise. After Tsukasa and Fujizaki go back and Natsume falls asleep, Yuri leaves behind woolen mittens for her, a gift he knitted himself with Lilith's assistance. Lilith is alone at the mansion when she is visited by her former master. While she tends to him, Natsume and Yuri are out shopping. On their way back, Natsume reveals how grateful she is because he showed her how to express her feelings. Earlier, she tried to keep everything to herself, but now she feels like she should inform others about her true feelings. Natsume is now determined to confess her love to her master once she returns to her mansion. Yuri is taken aback as he believes she was in love with Lilith, but the other explains that love for a friend is different than love for someone else, making him ponder the true meaning. At the mansion, Lilith's master asks her about the reason she came here, and the other reveals that Yuri's parents were the ones who helped her after her parents' disappearance, and to repay their kindness, she immediately ran here after hearing the news of their death. Her master is impressed with her judgment and assures her that he isn't here to take her back, rather he is here for Natsume. The other two arrive, and Yuri immediately informs him that he has no right over Lilith, causing the others to acknowledge his obsessiveness. Natsume and her master head back to their mansion, while Yuri's place is once again quiet, leaving faint echoes of their guest. Since they are alone now, Yuri proposes that the two should head out on a date to enjoy each other's company, and his maid immediately accepts. Tsukasa spots the two but couldn't get to follow them as Fujizaki is rather strict when it comes to the following schedule. On their date, the two visit various sites, and as they are getting ready to head back, Yuri notices how elegant Lilith looks in the midst of lights, as if her face is the source of such radiance. The following morning, it's snowing and Yuri decides to make her a snowman in return for the one she made for him. She is embarrassed when he even makes some snow children for her. What did you think of this video? Let us know in the comment. For now, leave us a like and subscribe to our channel for more.